So Ian Rappaport just tweeting he has a sprained elbow. He might be able to play this week. The belief is that Josh Allen can manage the injury moving forward, but how he responds this week is key, according to Ian Rappaport. Dave, it's a little bit vague, but it's not bad news. What do we make of this for all of the Bills, basically?
I think you just lower expectations a tad, but you still start them all. You're still going to start Diggs. Davis is still going to be that number 3 type of receiver who probably is ranked as a low-end number 2 just because so many receivers are hurt or on bye. You don't have to trust Dawson Knox. You don't have to trust Devin Singletary. The one thing that I think about is Josh Allen versus Tua or Josh Allen versus Justin Fields. Might you feel more comfortable going with one of those guys rather than Josh Allen, knowing that Allen isn't at 100%? What if his arm gets worse during the game? I don't think the matchup should have anything to do with it at this point. So that's something that I'll have to think about during the week. And that's a decision I'm going to have to make in a league where I'm trying to get the number 1 seed. I've got both Allen and Justin Fields. Right now, I've got Fields in my lineup. I might keep it that way.
I think like Chris Trapasso had a thread on this morning, and it's with no inside information, just kind of gaming this whole thing out. I think we should be prepared if we have Josh Allen or if we have Gabe Davis to start someone else. I think we should be prepared for Josh Allen to not play. It's not an AFC game. They are planning on playing all the way into February. I would not expect, unless it's a really good week of practice, just have an alternate plan.
But what about rest of season? Heath, you can start with that. And what do you do? If you have Stephon Diggs right now, do you trade him for Tyreek Hill just to be safe? Do you maybe downgrade a little bit more, trade him who would be just below that? I mean, I think you'd argue Tyreek Hill is better than Stephon Diggs, but
I don't know, especially with the connection that Diggs has with Case Keenum. He wouldn't be as good, but I still think he'd be a top 5 wide receiver, and I would be I'd have a tough time trading him. I think Gabe Davis might be the one, and you wish he was coming off a good game, because then maybe you could get somebody who still believes he's a top 25 wide receiver. But he might be the one that I'd be more nervous about, because it could be that Allen's playing with an elbow that doesn't allow him to take the deep shots. It could be he's playing with Case Keenum, who can't make those throws. So there's multiple ways things could go wrong for him. With Diggs, I just don't know. It would be pretty fantastic if we got the accidental revenge game with Case Keenum against the Vikings.
That would be fun. I don't know if that would be just for...
I'm anti that. I'm just going to say I'd rather it be Josh Allen.
Of course you would, and of course everybody else would. Just as far as trade values go for those guys, Stephon Diggs isn't in his usual spot on the trade value chart because of this elbow injury. He's still 5th, but usually he's higher than that. And Davis is outside of the top 30 among wide receivers. So if you can turn him into something pretty good, go for it, because I'm not even sure how much value he should have if Josh Allen's okay. Because every week it's the same story with him. It doesn't matter who they play. He's got to catch a deep ball in order to come through. He's got to catch a touchdown in order to be great for your team. And if he doesn't do it, it's like 3 catches for 33 yards or something like that. It's annoying. So this might not be the best time to trade Gabe Davis away for something, unless there's somebody in your league that just wants that high upside in their lineup each week.
Okay, and the next 3 opponents are pretty soft for Buffalo. So if Josh Allen were healthy, maybe you'd have a little bit more faith. Fully healthy, you'd have more faith in Gabe
Lions
Davis.
Are in there, right?
Yeah, Minnesota, Cleveland, and Detroit. Chuba Hubbard said he's going to play this week. We are going to take a look at that game in a little bit. Carolina hosting Atlanta on Thursday. Jerry Jones expects Ezekiel Elliott to play. It's certainly not written in stone, but the owner, general manager, head coach of the team said he expects, that's all Jerry Jones, by the way, expects Ezekiel Elliott to play against the Packers. Let's talk about Jaylen Warren and Rachaad White. So Mike Tomlin not exactly ruling out a Jaylen Warren surge, takeover, wave. And then Greg Auman, who covers the Bucs for The Athletic, made 5 predictions for the second half of the season. And the last one was that Rachaad White would eventually take over as the lead back for the Bucs. That he said the snaps were still heavily in Fournette's favor, but that will continue to change if Fournette underperforms. So who would be a bigger priority for you, Heath? Jaylen Warren for the Steelers or Rachaad White for the Buccaneers?
I think I'd go with Jaylen Warren for the Steelers. I'm less confident that Najee has a firm grip on the role. There's no Tom Brady there to say, oops, the young kid just messed up. I don't want him to play anymore. And they're both young kids in Pittsburgh. And Jaylen Warren's actually been good with the ball in his hands this year.
Yes.
I'm not sure it's possible for a Tampa Bay running back to be good with the ball in their hands in this current situation. So I could see a situation, and that's the interesting thing with Pittsburgh is they've so rarely had a committee that it's not hard to see a situation where they say, you know what, we're going to split it up this week, and Jaylen Warren goes out and rushes 10 times for 50 yards, and Najee goes 10 for 24, and they're just like, nope, Najee, you're done.
You think they might be there already?
They might be. Yeah. I mean, it could, but it could, like, it's easier for me to see Jaylen Warren just coming out and playing 75% of the snaps sometime in the next 3 weeks. I don't really believe that'll happen with Rachaad White. I think it might get to like 60-40.
I'm with you on it. I've been talking about Jaylen Warren for weeks about how he's the more explosive running back of the two. I actually have the metrics here if you're interested. He's ahead of Najee Harris on yards per carry, yards before contact, yards after contact, rush EPA, success rate overall, avoided tackle rate. He's more than double on Najee Harris on that. Explosive play rate, more than double, almost triple Najee Harris there. Rushes of 5+ yards, that rate, he's ahead of him there. The only question is, can Jaylen Warren be effective if he's getting 15 touches a game like Najee was? And I think that's what the Steelers are going to find out. I'm reading between the lines of what Tomlin's saying as Warren's going to get more chances. Najee will get less chances, and then they'll make a decision from there. But I agree with Heath. I think Warren has a chance to become a fantasy starter sooner than Rachaad White does. And I still like White too. But that could be a situation where they just use two backs and they're done with it. And White doesn't get the chance to be the feature guy unless Fournette almost literally gets hurt. Fournette didn't look terrible last week. He had some bad plays, but he didn't look as terrible as he did previously.
Jaylen Warren is 32% rostered. If we were doing the waiver wire show over, he might be the number one priority. He probably would be at the very least at running back.
You can pause the podcast right now, go pick him up off your waiver wire, and come back.
Yeah, go get him. I mean, you take him over Latavius Murray?
Yes, assuming that you don't need Latavius to start this week.
Okay. Warren, would you drop? You wouldn't drop James Robinson or Michael Carter, would you, for Jaylen Warren?
Definitely not Carter. Probably not Robinson, but I might put him in the same boat as Latavius, where if this is the guy who's the worst player on my bench and I want to get somebody that's got more upside, I would do it.
I would drop Robinson for.
Really?
I would.
Okay. All right. One last thing on Jaylen Warren. Dave mentioned how much better the metrics are for Warren compared to Najee Harris. But how about he only has 29 carries. If you just look at all running backs with a minimum of 25 carries, that's 64 running backs. Jaylen Warren is first in EPA, rush EPA, that's expected points added. Number one in rush EPA, number one in avoid rate, sixth best in success rate as calculated by True Media, 13th in yards per carry, 7th in yards before contact per carry, 18th in yards after contact per carry, blah, 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 11th in percent. It's incredible. His metrics, it's a small sample, but they are terrific. And it hasn't just been, it's third down and 15. Here's a draw play for Jaylen Warren. He does not have a single carry on third down all year. He has only 2 carries on second down of longer than 10 yards. So it hasn't been one of those situations where let's bring in the third down back for a play where everyone's playing back. He's been good, basically just good. End of story.
So pause right there. Number one, you just said he doesn't have a carry on third downs. How many third downs has he played? Would you like that number?
Yeah, he's the third down back on passing downs, but he doesn't have any carries on third downs. So it doesn't matter how many he's played. Things are going to change now, in theory. So go,
I'm just looking to see how many snaps he's played on third downs. He has played more snaps than Najee on third and fourth downs. Just okay. 4 carries, 4 rush snaps. Did he have all those rushes or did somebody else, like Pickett got one? Yeah, barely. He's barely done it. You're absolutely right. By the way, they play the Saints this week. The Saints played on Monday. They looked terrible. They lost members of their defense.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good spot for Jaylen Warren to break out if he's going to break out.
This means nothing, but not you guys made me look, so now you have to hear it. Jaylen Warren has 14 carries on second down for 111 yards.
A lot of second and 10 runs, right?
He has 15 other carries for 42 yards.
It does mean nothing, but it's cool. Stat of the day. Gus Edwards should be back after the bye. Kenny Golladay is expected to play this week. Deshaun Jackson should be back after the bye. Denver center Lloyd Cushenberry is on IR with a groin injury. Carolina safety Jeremy Chin is unlikely to play this week. He has not played since week 4. Carolina's pass defense, their defense in general, has been awful for 2 straight games. It's pretty good for the first 7 games. Terrible 2 straight games. Pittsburgh linebacker TJ Watt could play this week for the Steelers. That would be huge against the Saints.